Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the M2 iPad Air 6 and see how this particular type of iPad holds up in 2025. Now, the thing I will definitely tell you about these particular iPads is that in a lot of ways, they're still very decent for the most part. They're still very good. They bring a lot of stuff to the table. And I do think if you are going to go through and pick up some sort of, iPad like this, they're still going to be giving you quite a bit of a layout for the most part, right? Like these types of iPads, these types of, devices still hold up fairly well. But keep in mind, if you are going to go through and pick up something like an, M2 iPad Air, there might be some other better types of iPads that might be better than this one. So we'll take a look at it throughout this whole entire video. But if at any point you do want to go through and pick up any of these types of iPads, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of this particular iPad, the iPad Air M2 model originally came out in 2024. So this thing is really not that old. It's basically almost like a year old now. And within the last year, this thing has held up quite well. You have to remember that with these types of iPads, I do think that getting an iPad like this for the most part is still very, very decent. So this thing on the outside still looks pretty good for the most part. I will say when you're looking at it on the exterior, it may not look the nicest. I mean, it looks good, but when you look at the current generation iPad Pros, those ones do look noticeably better for the most part, but these things still look pretty good for the most part as well. You're getting on the front side a pretty big, an 11-inch liquid retina IPS LCD panel. So the panel on this thing still looks fairly good. It's a pretty big size panel at that, and I think it is a really good looking device and a very good looking panel. With these types of iPads, you are getting fairly large displays, and on top of that, they're pretty bright at 500 nits of peak brightness. Now, there are some pretty big things to keep in mind here though for the most part. Number one, there's no 120 Hz or 90 Hz or anything like that on the front side, which is a little bit of a disadvantage, I would say, for some people. Like being able to go through and get an iPad that is going to be giving you an overall better type of experience, I think would be a nicer thing. Again, we're not really 100% too sure what's going to end up happening there, but for the most part, from what we're seeing, that is kind of what we're expecting from that particular situation. But again, it isn't the biggest deal in the world, but if you are kind of going through and getting some sort of an iPad, just know that you might not be getting all the cool little bells and whistles that a majority of iPads have nowadays. But again, I don't think it's necessarily the biggest deal in the world either. You are getting a USB Type-C port on the bottom of this particular device, which is also really cool. I love having USB-C, and you're getting that here. You're getting flat sides all throughout, which is always really good. Then on the back side, you're getting the standard back. It has this Apple logo on the back side too. And you're also getting this single camera setup on the back side as well. So I do think that right there, it is a really cool thing to basically have. And if you're going to be able to go through and pick up some sort of an iPad like this, well, you're still going to be able to get a really good type of experience here. So you're getting a single camera setup. There's not really much else to kind of think about here either. Like it's pretty much kind of the same type of, layout that you'd probably expect. But I would probably tell you for the most part, if you are trying to go through and get some sort of a device, this type of iPad in so many ways holds up very, very well. The only things where this type of device doesn't really hold up extremely well for the most part, as far as I can tell, is, in terms of the refresh rate. The refresh rate of this iPad just doesn't hold up that well. But even the single camera setup and other things like that, like this iPad still feels like a very expensive, very premium type of iPad when it comes down to it from that side. So I feel like when you look at it from that particular situation, this type of iPad does do a really good job at a majority of things that you probably throw at it from that side. So in that particular situation, that kind of covers it up there too. Now, on top of that, another very big thing to keep in mind here as well is when this type of iPad basically goes through and you're looking at the camera setup, this type of iPad does kind of give you a little bit of a different type of layout. So this thing is basically going to be giving you a single camera setup on the backside. So it's going to be a 12 megapixel wide angle lens. Then it's also going to be giving you a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera as well. So from that side, this type of camera does kind of give you like a good type of experience, right? It's not anything crazy. It gets the job done. It's not anything super wild. And, you're getting 4K at 60 on the backside. Then you're also getting 1080p at 60 on the front side. So this type of device with this type of camera, it's not really going to be giving you anything insane that you haven't already seen before. It's going to be more or less essentially kind of the similar type of experience. So just keep that in mind. Again, it's not going to be anything super wild. It is going to be a very good type of layout. And I do like having this type of camera as well. It's good, but it's not really like amazing anymore. And I do think, there might be some better types of devices to go and buy from that particular situation as well, from a camera standpoint. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there too. Now, on top of that, another very important thing to keep in mind here too is that within this type of iPad, luckily for us, this iPad is still supported with software. So that's always a really nice thing to basically have here. You're still going to be able to go through and get this type of device, get this type of software update, which is really cool. And I do feel like from that standpoint, from that situation, you're still going to be getting a device here that's going to hold up very, very well from a, performance perspective, from a, software perspective. So that's always something really nice to have. And I do feel like getting these types of devices in that particular situation, like I stated, is always a nice thing to have. Again, is it perfect? Maybe not, but it's still going to be a good enough type of device that's going to hold up fairly well from that type of situation as well. Now, on top of that, another very important thing to keep in mind here too is that with something like an M2 iPad Air, this type of device, for the most part, as far as I can tell, the battery life of these devices still hold up very well as well. So you're still going to be able to go through and get a device here that's going to hold up very well when it comes down to that, a battery life standpoint. So you're getting a 7,606 milliamp hour battery inside of it. And I will tell you, as far as I can tell, these types of devices do give you a really good type of experience when it comes down to that type of capability. So the battery life here is still very good. On top of that, this type of device is still giving you a very good performing chipset inside of it too. You're still getting the Apple M2 chipset inside with 8 gigabytes of RAM. This type of device from that standpoint does a really good job at giving you some really, really good performance. And I do think from that standpoint, you are getting such an excellent performing device from that, capability. And I think that in and of itself is a really nice thing to basically have. So again, maybe it isn't necessarily like the best, most performance heavy type of iPad right now. You are still getting a very good type of device here. And I'm a massive fan of this type of iPad when it comes down to it from that standpoint too. So like I said, although it isn't perfect, I do think going through and getting this type of iPad and that type of capability is something that is also very cool as well. So to kind of sum it up, what I definitely will tell you is that this type of iPad, for the most part, does give you a pretty good type of experience, and it is a really solid iPad. It's probably one of the better types of iPads you can buy, and I would recommend you to probably pick it up if you're in the market, right? But at the same time, if you're somebody who wants to go through and maybe save a little bit more money, you could buy something like an iPad 10th generation or an iPad 11th generation. That might be an okay type of idea too. Or you can also swing up and buy more money, spend more money, and buy like an M3 iPad Pro or M4 iPad Pro or something like that. So those are just a few different options that you kind of have for the most part when it kind of comes down to it. So from that particular situation, and that kind of covers it up there for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.